This landscape is so much more interesting, and it's really inviting a conversation in the neighborhood.
And so whenever something establishes itself on its own.
Due to the current pandemic, we had to rethink our annual tour of the food forest gardens in Benicia and Vallejo. This year, John Valenzuela will give a guided tour of the 4-year-old food forest in Benicia called Living and Learning. John was selected because he's a permaculture expert and a dynamic speaker with a special focus on rare fruit and perennial vegetables. Living and Learning Garden was installed in April 2016. It was a front lawn conversion, has a laundry to landscape gray water system.
So we have that laundry to landscape gray water that goes down to a middle tier that's just all of our fruit trees. And then of course we have the bioswale, which is one giant 75-foot long bioswale that's fed by 3 different downspouts from the roof.
These lush, beautiful, and productive gardens are designed to build healthy soil, provide food, diverse habitat, shade, and to sequester carbon.
Looking at the landscape here, in the big picture, I want to point out kind of the bones of the place. So we have this slope, we have a nice house entry and a large shade tree. We have these terraces that were made. We have some basic large elements like the fruit trees. We have 3 on this terrace here. It looks like an apple, an apricot, and a fig. So those are kind of main elements. Another beautiful main element I like right in the front here are these beautiful artichoke plants. And this beautiful little succulent, drought-tolerant succulent garden here that has not only beautiful plants, but actually medicinal plants like this aloe vera here, and our native poppies.
Our barometer of success is primarily that we eat fresh food out of it almost all year long and do it with a minimum amount of water.
So we're here at the beautiful food forest here in Benicia, and contemplating what is permaculture anyway. Permaculture is a contraction of 2 words, permanent and agriculture. But as it's evolved beyond just agriculture, it is embracing all kinds of things, certainly with soil and water, but also community, building community. So it's kind of about permanent culture, really. And what I love about permaculture is that it's so broad, it tries to embrace kind of all these best practices, but it puts it into a design framework. So we're figuring out how to put things together to be functional and beautiful. It starts with some basic ethics that are very simple, and I think we can all agree on. Care of the earth. She's our mother. We need to care for her so she can care for us. Secondly, care of people. We need to care for each other. And lastly, how we can redistribute the surplus towards those ends.
We do a lot of yearly squash, tomatoes. We finally found the spot where watermelons will grow, and that's really spectacular. A lot of beans, a lot of peas, a lot of lettuce.
So thinking about when we create these beautiful abundant systems, how can we spread the wealth, so to speak, spread the abundance? So that's the basics of it. Now, exploring all the permutations and possibilities is where permaculture is kind of open-ended. So we're really working with nature, working with natural cycles, and figuring out how to work with her rather than against her. So there's a lot of opportunities for discovery, and every spot is going to be unique and different in particular. So it's very place-based. Permaculture solutions aren't, this is going to solve everything for everybody. It's a way of developing a site-specific project. So working here with Sustainable Solano, this whole series of installing these food forests is great because they're very site-specific. They involve using the rainwater off the roofs here, which is a fantastic resource we're usually trying to get away and let run back into the ocean down our storm gutters. Why not let it infiltrate into our gardens and recharge the soil? Building soil, certainly, with the addition of using our wastewater from our laundry, the laundry to landscape aspect, is a great way to build soil really, because this more water and turning our wood chips into compost, we're going to explore some of that. And this whole front yard aspect of these projects I really love, that you know, we have often a lot of our food production and edible landscapes in the backyard, our food production in the backyard. And I think this is a great example of turning a lawn, which is okay, interesting maybe if you want to play golf, but this landscape is so much more interesting, and it's really inviting a conversation in the neighborhood. You know, when people walk by and see all the bees and bugs and hummingbirds flying by, and the trees are loaded up here with fruit, this is a conversation starter, and this is something that hopefully inspires others to see how they maybe could start fooling around a little bit with more pollinator plants or native plants or food producing plants that can be thought of as beautiful in their own way. And so I love this integration of all the ornamentals and edibles and medicinal plants like this. So I really love these projects here with this Sustainable Solano food forest, laundry to landscape, roof catchment. This is a great combination of projects into these examples, so welcome.
Our organization began in 1999 as Benicia Community Garden. In 2014, when California entered the drought, our board began looking for a way to garden that utilized water efficiently and found permaculture. We received a grant from Benicia Sustainability Commission to install 7 demonstration food forest gardens on private residential sites in Benicia. David Mudge designed these gardens using permaculture principles with a special focus on water efficiency.
The basic thing about making a great garden is getting your water right and getting your soil right, and then the habitat, which is all the flowers and other species besides just your food plants. So here we are in one of the main paths of the garden. This is the upper path that connects the entry sidewalk to the side part of the landscape here. And it looks like a normal path. And this is a multifunction. This is part of permaculture where every element, every thing in your garden should be doing a bunch of different things. This path is not only a path, but it's also on the contour, which means it's flat. And because it's flat, it's able to collect, but also distribute water. And so these terraces being flat will catch the rainwater. The organic matter catches and holds more of that rainwater. But also, we're managing excess water from the roof. This is pure runoff. It gets collected in the gutters around the roof, and then it gets put into a pipe that usually just goes to the ocean and creates flooding somewhere else. What we want to do is let it spread out into this flat area here and let it soak in. So that way we have zero runoff, and then we're charging up the land with more of this rainwater than just the ambient rainfall. So essentially, if your yard is about as big as your house, you could essentially double your effective rainfall by using roof catchment. For those first rains of fall that happen maybe in October, this roof catchment will double that first rain and allow us to stop irrigating earlier in the season, in that fall time. Let's take a look at where the water is coming from and how it gets into the swale. Here we are in the cool, dim entryway where there's a small roof here over the doorway. And this small little gutter here has a downspout, and it comes around and goes into the ground here and is diverted underground to an outlet that I'll show you that feeds the beginning of the swale. There's about 3 of these along the edge of the house that collect the downspouts and let them, instead of run off to the ocean, they get to run and spread out horizontally into that nice swale so that we can soak it into the soil. So here we are with a bunch of water options. We have pipe water, municipal water coming from the standpipe here in the hose and the faucet. We have here the downspout, and the downspouts getting put into this pipe, and it's being diverted into our on-contour swale. Here, this pipe, the purple pipe. Purple means that it's recycled water. It's not for fresh drinking. This is our gray water from the laundry. And so these three sources will be able to provide all the needs of the water for this garden, in addition to all that beautiful rain. So let's follow these pipes and see where they pop out and where the action is, where this water ends up. So here we are on the beginning of the swale. That's a pathway. This is a level path. And we're following the path of the downspout drain pipe. So normally this would just go out to this curb gutter and go into a storm drain and go right out to the ocean. And what we've done here is under this beautiful stepping stone, there's a secret. Check this out here. Lift this up. And this is the end of that pipe that's taking water from the downspout. And so what it's doing here, it's entering this swale. So this is dug out about 1.5 feet deep, and it's filled with wood chips. And I'll show you what they've done when they harvest the wood chips after a few years. This landscape's been in about 4 years. And with this water filling up this trough, this earthen berm, it actually helps decompose all those wood chips and turns it into beautiful soil. So we can see that too. Yeah.
I just dug it up.
Yeah.
And then all of this soil
Yes.
is here.
Great.
Is from the swale.
Gotcha.
The swale itself has been delightful. It created a path that leads you through the garden. And we've had no problems with the gray water or the rainwater retention at all. It's all worked perfectly. Overall, the soil quality all the way through the garden obviously has improved dramatically. The soil quality is improved 1 billion%.
So here we are with the pipe coming from the laundry, coming down, and there's a little valve here where we can control how much comes out every time the laundry empties its water, which is first the soapy water and then the rinse water. So there's 2 big surges that come out of that. Could be 20, 30 gallons. So there's several of these that split up the water, and then we can use the valves to determine like how much comes out at a time. So this is a great little simple system. It has a perforated pipe that goes straight down, that fills up with the water, and then it gets a chance to leach in. And these tree roots are loving it. It's spring, it's a beautiful time of the year. We have the lemons and limes ripening, our citrus ripening, just coming off the trees easily. The new flowers for the new crop coming. This is a little bit of a rougher side of the garden where we have some debris and we have even some ivy vines trying to take over. But this nice bed here, they have integrated some of their logs and the brush, the woody material. They've made a trench here alongside this swale here, and we've incorporated them into the earth. With all those branches in contact with the earth like that, we call that hugelkultur, bearing the woody material. And once it's in contact with the earth like that, as compared to just stacked up in the air, it decomposes wonderfully. The fungi get in there and break it down, and this becomes a big organic matter sponge for fertility and water once again. And they might plant some other stuff in here because we put a nice layer of compost on top. But underneath is all that woody material that might take a couple years to break down, but it's a good way to incorporate all that brush and tree stuff. If you don't have a chipper especially, it's a great way to incorporate it and keep all your carbon sequestered on site and buried and feeding plants. Get out your calendar and get down on it and just plan your meals and plan your schedule of planting. Talking about nutrition briefly too, here we have quick greens like the lettuce. Then we have even more nutritious greens like the collards and kale. These greens are so important, vitamin rich, nutrient dense, but also think about the other things. We have lots of fruit, we have herbs, and greens are kind of like no-brainers. But also think about things like legumes. But let's look at these legumes like peas. Another one I want to make sure you know about are these fava beans. This is going to be a tomato patch. This is a Juneberry tree. That's a Japanese maple tree. You got to start with a Meyer lemon. We have a lot of little aromatic shrubs. This little grape here, and it makes these little thick-walled, little mini bell pepper-like peppers with black seeds. This is a little blood orange tree.
These gardens were installed through public educational workshops. So in addition to being demonstration sites, they also have been building a community. The 7 gardens had an annual water impact of 500,000 gallons. We took those numbers to the Solano County Water Agency, and they generously funded the program to expand throughout the county. We have 27 demonstration food forests on both private and public sites, with an annual water impact of over 2 million gallons. The homeowners of the garden agreed to open their yard to tour yearly for 5 years.
So we're wrapping up our wonderful tour of the Learning and Living Garden.
Living and learning garden.
Living and Learning Garden. Living and Learning Garden here.
But it doesn't matter which direction you go into, it's all good.
We're learning a lot here, and it's a beautiful example of what could be done in somebody's front yard conversion. This is just fantastic. Thanks so much for allowing us to come visit your garden. It's so beautiful. You've invited the rainwater to come in. You've invited your so-called wastewater to come in. You've invited the birds and the bees to come in. You've invited the community come in to join you in this beautiful place to learn. It's a real inspiration, so thanks for being part of it.
We can't thank Sustainable Solano and the whole backyard program enough for making this available to people to transform and create a vision for a yard.